Hi guys, today I'm here to do a Tiffany's Tell All question, and coming up on Sunday it will be 365 days since Michaela's passing, and I've gotten a lot of questions over the last year, which is crazy to even say a year, about any regrets we've had or how we're doing and stuff like that. And I got a comment on, I believe it was our Christmas vlog, just recently actually, you know, not around Christmas time, and I think it was a really good question, so I want to answer it. And then I also have another question I will answer and get into that. So first off, I just want to start off by saying, you can see I'm at the property. I'm at the property because one, the property has amazing lighting because of how many windows are in here. And two, the light fixture that I use downstairs, the ceiling light, it doesn't have a bulb in it right now, and it's like been flickering and all that even when there is a bulb. So I can't really film there, and if I film upstairs, it's usually too loud. Everybody was actually quiet today in the house, but I just figured it's so much easier to do a sit-down video when no one's around. For sit-down videos, I would rather do just me. So anyways, let's get on to the question. So I'm going to read off the question that this person asked, and Shy Hulid is cool. Hi, your videos are great and your family is picturesque. And I never thought I'd say this, seeing your happy little boy and your sweet little niece has actually made me sort of want kids. I have a question to ask you though. I'm only asking because it's been bugging me nonstop. It's totally none of my business, so feel free to tell me to piss off. I just have to know, how does it feel to have a normal life now? From watching some of your other videos, I think it's safe to say that taking care of Michaela was a full-time job for you. Then you had two babies, the human variety and the canine variety, and I got the impression you rarely got a chance to sit down and breathe. Naturally, I'm just so curious how it feels to be, well, untethered now, for the lack of a better word. Granted, taking care of Michaela was your normal, but is there any sort of weight that has been lifted off your shoulders with her passing? Are you able to appreciate newfound freedom that her passing has allowed you? I'm so sorry to ask this question. I know it's extremely insensitive and I can't stop wondering about it. First of all, I don't think it's insensitive. I think if you were asking a person that has lost a child, say in a car accident that was sudden, that wasn't supposed to happen, I think that would be insensitive, just because it's such a raw, real emotion to losing your child, and the attachment of being untethered from your child is not something that they would feel like is even a possibility. However, because of our situation, and we knew one day we would lose Michaela, and also how much work over the years it would take to care for Michaela, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask this question. And once again, you guys know that I am open and honest when it comes to pretty much anything on my channel. So yeah, I don't think it's insensitive. So the first question she asked was, how does it feel to have a normal life now? And that's a weird question, because I feel like I will never have a normal life. Having Michaela and losing Michaela has created this life for me that not many people have. So I don't think it's normal. I don't think, you know, Kyle and I being together for so many years at such a young age is normal, and staying together is not normal nowadays. So I don't think my life is by any means normal now, but that's not to say that it isn't closer to a normal, you know, just being a family of three and going about life the way anybody else would. So I'm going to transition this into the next question, and that is, granted, taking care of Michaela was your normal, but is there any sort of weight that's been lifted off your shoulders with her passing? And 100%, towards the end of her life, it was very stressful, anxiety filled, And you guys probably know, but not last January, but the January before, I had started another weight loss journey, and I always use the same program. It's called Lose It. I've talked about it many times on my channel. However, the most I've ever lost with that program is 30 pounds. And that's basically trying my hardest to keep up with it. And it usually takes me, you know, a few months to do so, you know, tops maybe 5. So I continued my weight loss journey all through 2019. And I had gotten to the point where I actually lost 50 pounds. It was the most amount of weight that I've ever lost at once. And I think now looking back, it had a lot to do with stress. As much as I was trying to eat healthy and make sure I was calorie counting and that type of thing, I do think the stress had helped me along to lose weight. And it was the closest I had ever been to my pre-pregnancy weight with Michaela in high school. So I felt great. However, I had always felt depleted no matter what. I felt exhausted and I'm pretty anxious. You guys know that towards the end of Michaela's life, we were in hospital quite a bit and she got sick quite a bit. So I had felt like every time that she got sick, we were getting closer and closer to her passing. And the last few times, in November when we were in sick kids or about to go to sick kids, I, you know, got the shivers. I was basically having an anxiety attack or panic attack. I don't know which one. I don't have anxiety or panic attacks ever. I'm not the type of anxious person that deals with anxiety. So that was a big red flag for me, knowing that I was almost not handling her sicknesses mentally anymore. So that time I got the shakes and I just got really cold and that type of thing. But we went on our way and I actually ended up losing 10 pounds that time in sick kids. Now, granted, I was still eating healthy. I was looking at what I was eating while I was in sick kids. You know, when you go there, there's really not a lot of healthy options. So anyways, I was looking at what I was eating. However, I lost 10 pounds over the course of a week. So yeah, that's just not healthy. And then the last time that we were going to head to the hospital, the night that Michaela died, again, I had this like panic attack or anxiety attack. And I think it's just because, like I said, I knew that day was coming fairly soon. Kyle and I had a conversation in February when we were in Sick Kids. I was at Sick Kids with Michaela and he was home with Damien, and we had the real talk about how much longer we were going to go through this as a family, for Michaela's health and our health. And we came to the realization that for Michaela's well-being, we didn't want to keep her alive anymore. We didn't want to hold her hostage to these sicknesses anymore. And God, I didn't think I was gonna get emotional. So that week in Sick Kids, we made the decision basically to not do this anymore. It was mentally draining to go back and forth from Sick Kids and just being concerned that you would lose your child so often. And we decided when we were going to come home that we were going to change some things around. We had felt like we had lost vision of what we wanted for Michaela, in the sense of everything to do with her feeding and her medications and the way we did things, because of recommendations from doctors. And I wanted to get back on track to what we knew what was right for Michaela. So coming home, we had this plan to get back on track, basically. And the sad thing about it is, when we came home, a few days later, we had an appointment with our children's center and we were going to discuss seating. Now, most of you know that Michaela has never done well in her wheelchair, and it makes things worse for her. So we were going because her chair was no longer working for her, and We had just made the bed in the van for her to lay in while we're working at the property, or if we go out and we're, you know, around the van, but she doesn't need to be in the cold. We made that bed so that she would have a place of comfort traveling and moving around. Now, there are laws to have a child in a car seat or wheelchair strapped down. However, when it comes to someone like Michaela, there are ways that if a doctor or physiotherapist or someone in the medical profession recommends they are seated differently, you can basically carry a letter and, you know, they're not going to charge you for transporting your child that way. You know, just like in an ambulance, you are laying down strapped in. And that's what we were hoping to achieve before we even got our wheelchair accessible van, my little Ford Escape. We had actually discussed about having Michaela lay down, and they have a strap system called, I think it's called the Easy Belt or something. I don't know. I'll try and find a picture, insert it here. But anyways, going to this appointment, we were hoping to achieve that so that when we were traveling, she could be laying down, which wouldn't restrict her breathing and saliva issues and all of that. So coming home from that appointment, she actually aspirated, and that was just like a half an hour drive. And we realized, you know, even in the last times that we stayed at Sick Kids, we were actually stopping halfway from here to Sick Kids and staying in a hotel just because her sitting in her wheelchair in a vehicle is just not feasible anymore. She would aspirate every single time, which then caused more problems. That's why we had decided we wanted to do this Easy Belt. So she ended up aspirating that night, or that day, I guess, and you know, we put her on antibiotics right away. And keep in mind, this was 2 days from getting out of Sick Kids. And luckily she didn't have to have a breathing tube that time, but 2 days after we were home, and she was now sick again with a chest infection because of sitting in her chair. So we put her on antibiotics, and thankfully she was able to stay home and get better, because I knew, you know, the instant she got sick, and I was able to jump on it, and thankfully she recovered from it after about 10 days of antibiotics. And then I want to say COVID era hit. Damien was in school and he came home with a flu, and he was on the couch resting for a week's time. Now you guys know Damien, he does not sit on a couch for any period of time, just laying there doing nothing. And I knew that it was a rough sickness, and if Michaela caught it, it was not going to be good. So I was actually, I guess a little while went by, I think a few days, and I was actually working on my income tax return and working on paperwork all day, and I knew she was starting to get stuffy, and I had checked on her in the afternoon after I was done, you know, working with receipts and stuff for Michaela's return, and she was, 1, throwing up, and 2, just very, very phlegmy and full of fluids. So the throwing up had actually started when we put her on a reflux medication, and we just actually had stopped that medication because I had told my doctor that I felt like it was making things worse and not better. So we were actually weaning her off of that. So that night we basically hummed and hawed, and I was tired of making that decision to go to the hospital. And I left it up to Kyle to decide whether or not we were going to go. Again, keep in mind, we had just gotten out 2 weeks later, a week and a half later. Anyways, Kyle had made the decision that yes, we were going to take her to the hospital, and we phoned the hospital, said basically we're on our way, and let them know. And by the time that we had gotten ready to go out the door, that is when Michaela declined and passed away. Now I feel like I've gotten off track. Okay, so having the weight lifted off our shoulders, there was always so much pressure on us to try and keep Michaela well every step of her life, whether that be feeding her and her aspirating, her getting sick and aspirating, her breathing, just all of these factors that created such a weight on us. And to be honest, we were okay with that weight. We knew exactly what we wanted for her and her future and how long we wanted to go on. It was just very close to the end of her life that we realized we were tired and she was tired. She had fought through so much in her life and we had to do a lot of fighting too. Now, that takes a toll on you as a human being. And I had always said that I would never put Michaela in a home, that I would bury myself in the ground before I would do that. However, I also knew that Michaela would decide when she wanted to go. And sure enough, she did. She said that night basically that she wasn't doing this anymore. She wasn't gonna go to the hospital again and she was tired. And that was our okay. Now that kind of leads me into the other question that I've gotten, and is there any regret about not calling 911 that night? And really it wasn't even an option. We knew that 911 did not have the time to get to our home to help her. We had a do not resuscitate for her, and we knew that if she passed on her own, that we were not willing to basically bring her back to life. And that would have cracked her ribs, that would have caused so much bruising and so much trauma to her body as it is. And we knew that night that they just didn't have enough time to do that, so it wasn't even a thought. Again, my mom asked us if we wanted her to call 911 and we said no. We were not willing to spend the last moments of her life having people rush in and try and bring her back to life, or you know, do certain procedures to try and achieve that. We took that opportunity to say goodbye properly and tell her that we love her, and we got to spend that moment as a family. And of course, that moment was the hardest moment of my entire life, but I know that's what she would have wanted. So no, we don't regret what we chose that night. We knew that was her time. She picked the perfect time. You guys know that Kyle's birthday just passed if you follow me on Instagram. And my birthday is next week. She chose directly in between our birthdays. She chose a leap year day, which is insane. And she chose a day that Kyle was actually home from work. If it was any other weekend, he would have been at work while it happened. And we're so thankful that it happened the way it did. So that's our answer for that. Moving on to the last question that Shai asked, are you able to appreciate newfound freedom that her passing has allowed you? And 100%. You guys know that my last video was of Kyle creating a channel and doing something that we would have never been able to do with Michaela. Not to say that we haven't done it in the past, hiking through a trail with her, but it's just not feasible with a wheelchair or whatever. So yeah, the freedom that we've gained is... I knew all Michaela's life that I had dedicated my life to her during the time that she was alive. However, now that I have freedom to go about my day without caring for her, I didn't quite realize how much of my life was spent caring for her. And, you know, not that I was with her every second of the day, but I wasn't able to just go to the grocery store or walk down the road, or just little things that you take for granted every day. And I know I had never taken those things for granted because it was in my face literally every day that I couldn't, you know, go out of the house unless someone was there with Michaela. The appreciation I have for freedom is more than I think anyone that is not in my position would see. And I would like to hope that having Michaela for those short 10 years has taught me that for the rest of my life. And I know over time it will fade and I will almost forget what it's like to care for Michaela. over time. But I also know that there are little things in my life that I don't take for granted because of her. And I've achieved what I've achieved in life because of her. So because Michaela's been now gone for 365 days, I want you guys to know that if you have children, just go and hug them. Go and love them. I still have my moments a year later where I uncontrollably cry at night and think about what it would be like to have her still and how much I miss her, because I think that'll never go away. Losing a child has no words. It is a feeling that can't be described other than true heartbreak. And I'm so thankful that Damien has handled her passing in a way that is not detrimental to the rest of his life. He sees pictures of her and you can tell that he just loved her so much. And I'm so glad that he gets to remember her for the rest of his life. So anyways, I didn't think I would cry this much in this video. You know, I have people tell me all the time how strong I am and how realistic I am about the situation. But they usually don't see me bawling my eyes out at night when everybody's asleep. And they can't see the true heartbreak. So I think that is it for this video. I hope I answered your questions, and I just want to say that I love you, beautifuls, and I miss you, and I can't believe it's been a year, which is crazy, and it's hard to think that I have to go every year from here on out living without you, but we will do the best we can and we'll make you proud. We're finishing this house, and yeah. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you haven't seen our last video, go watch it. If you guys don't know yet, Kyle is starting a YouTube channel, and I will have all of that information down below. So once again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Bye.